Hello, my name's Laura Lee. This is my informational speech, and here's my audience. Say hello, guys. Hello. All right, they're waving, they're watching. And that's
There you go.
All right, today I want to tell you about Marsha P. Johnson. I chose to speak about Marsha today because she was a central part in establishing many of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer rights that we have today. During the 1960s and 70s, Marsha was a trailblazer for gay and trans social movements when LGBTQ were largely ostracized by society. Marsha was a trans woman of color, a drag queen in New York City, and a pioneer for LGBTQ activism. Marsha was born August 24th, 1945 in Elizabeth, New Jersey. In Marsha's last recorded interview by Michael Casino, Marsha says at the age of 5 she started dressing in dresses and feminine clothing, but soon stopped to avoid bullying and harassment by the neighborhood kids. Like many in those days, her family condemned homosexuality. Marsha said that her mother would say, "You're gay, you're lower than a dog." So, Marsha got her high school diploma, packed a bag of clothes and $15, and headed for New York City. According to her interview, this is where Marsha discovers drag for the first time. And in 1966, she changes her name to Marsha P. Johnson, the P standing for Pay It No Mind. The Sage Encyclopedia of Trans Studies said that this was in reference to her attitude to the discrimination she was often faced with. With LGBTQ having limited to no options in those days, the early 1960s, many were runaways and homeless. Marsha reverted from hopping to hotel, sleeping in movie theaters and on the streets. It was a dangerous and challenging time to be gay. Notably, one day, Marsha's friend and fellow activist, Martin Boyce, said a group of boys once took Marsha's wig from her head and threw it into the Hudson River. When Marsha protested, they threw her into the river too. Boyce presumed she died from the incident, but Marsha must have been a good swimmer, he said, because she survived the ordeal and climbed out. Still, Marsha was kind and generous with what little she had and maintained a happy-go-lucky demeanor, even being coined the nickname Saint Marsha. Marsha, along with many queer, trans, gay, and sex workers, frequented a local bar called the Stonewall Bar. This is where Marsha infamously was an active participant in what would be known as the Stonewall Riots, noted by the Transgender Reference Handbook by Deborah Thomas. It all started as a result of a police raid. Even though the police had raided the bar days earlier, the police commanded anyone dressed in the wrong clothes to start stripping and began arresting the patrons. The myth is that Marsha was the first one to throw the shot glass heard around the world, according to the Sage Encyclopedia of Trans Studies. June 28, 1969 was the night they fought back, throwing drinks and shoes at the police and thus sparking what would be known as the Stonewall Riots. The riot lasted 6 days and even made national news. Shortly after the Stonewall Riots was the first ever gay pride parade to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of Stonewall. Although this was a great step for gays and lesbians, trans people were not included and even forced out of the parade as they thought it gave the movement a bad look. Dever and Thomas write in Transgender, a Reference Handbook, that this is what motivated Marsha, along with fellow friend and trans activist Sylvia Rivera, to co-found STAR, the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which focused on providing homes to homeless transgender youth. In 1992, 4 days after Marsha's last interview with Michael Casino, she attended a gay pride parade and that evening she disappeared. Her body was later found in the Hudson River. The police ruled her death as suicide, but there is speculation around this finding, as she had been a victim of harassment in the same area before. She was a target for hatred and brutality her whole life because of who she was, but that never stopped her from speaking out for trans and gay rights, even in the face of adversity. Marsha P. Johnson is celebrated today for paving the way for many of the LGBTQ liberation movements that we have in place today. Thank you.